So this video is being recorded extremely late. It's about 10:30 at night. I woke up probably about 3 hours ago. Migraines are the absolute worst. I don't get them nearly as much as I used to when I was much younger, but my God, they are horrifying. I mean, for any of you that get them, I understand. My mother actually had to be put on medication to kind of quell a lot of the problematic issues that came with having them. And hers were horrible. I remember, like, my grandmother used to get them, her mother as well too. And but with my dad, he never really understood, like, how are you always getting headaches? And my mom would get them. A lot of hers, from what she was able to understand, were either, she believes, from a lot of the stress and pressure and things that she went through that she wasn't really allowed to talk about or anything. And it's really before therapy, and not that that would have even been allowed in my family, for her anyway. And so one of the things that I always wonder is what exactly causes migraines. And I know there's a lot of people and a lot more studies have been done on them. But I had this full thing that I was going to do today, and I hate it because now I'm behind on some stuff. So I guess that's kind of what I'm going to talk myself through this at this point and get myself back on track, because now my sleeping pattern's off. I woke up this morning and it was devastatingly bad. It was horrifying. Now, part of that, a small part of it was probably my fault. When I went to sleep, one of my dogs likes to sleep on the couch. So occasionally I'll sleep on the couch with him. And I just didn't pay attention. And I have an old neck injury back from when I used to do security. And it's at the base of my skull, but also like right where the top of my shoulder line is back here. And when I was younger, I didn't feel it as much. As years have gone by, I'm like, oh, there it is. So anytime I sleep with my neck at a weird ass angle or anything, it just goes to hell on me. And I almost always end up getting like clogged sinuses. There's all these different things that happen. So I woke up this morning and migraine, nausea. Couldn't even take medication, really. I was trying. I was like, I always test my nausea level by taking a small sip of water. And I thought, oh, it's going to come up. It's going to come out. Thank goodness it didn't. There's few things I hate as much, well, even almost as much as a migraine, but that's throwing up, vomiting. And just anything with my stomach makes me beyond ill. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself a second, but it didn't matter. If I moved, it hurt. At one point, I just closed the door. The bathroom is the only room that has no windows. And so I just closed the door and I sat in there, just on the edge of the tub, just like breathing, trying to think through things. It was so bad I couldn't even meditate. And so it was a combination of migraine and then nasal pressure. And then I have a problem. I think this is called a eustachian tube. I can't remember what, but the inner ear always clogs up whenever I get a stuffy nose, and I don't know why. Basically telling you guys all my medical history. You're welcome. And so I went through all of this bullshit, and I'm like, I feel horrible. And on top of that, I was hungry. I was just really hungry, but even just any odor would just have set me off. So I didn't eat until just a couple hours ago. And I ate like there was no tomorrow. I think I ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner all in one sitting. I know I did. And it was ridiculous because I've learned enough. When I was younger, I used to be, well, I'm really hungry, I'm going to power through this. And then I'd inevitably end up getting physically ill, worse, which wouldn't help the migraine. And I started with it is an NSAID. NSAID, I can never get those pronunciations right. But basically like a muscle relaxer. But then that meant I couldn't take my migraine medicine. So I had to take that, and I took, like my daily vitamins, some things like that. I tried my best to get through the day, but nothing was really working. And finally I was like, I got to sleep this off, as much as I don't want to go back to bed, because my neck, it didn't matter how I got into what position, it hurt. So now I'm fine. I'm still a little woozy. My head still kind of hurts, but I have so much stuff I have to do right now, that was due today, and that needs to be done. And I've got some new projects that I've lined up for Wednesday and some other days that That's unfortunately part of being a freelancer. Like, the only good thing is that if I had been working somewhere, I would have had to call in sick. That would have gone against some hours I would have had. That would have been a problem. But even when I have bad moments like that, I think to myself, it doesn't suck that bad because I can stay here and take care of myself. I remember a lot of the times when I worked at Hallmark, how if I didn't have any days off, and especially when I was on call, it didn't help if I just got sick. People didn't understand that, and I did. It was through stress. It was a lot of other problems, but I didn't get migraines as much as I just got overwhelmed. Stress was attacking me. And that's something that I think that today, like, people don't even really consider as a real problem, especially if you're in management or you're part of, like, you own a company or something. You're not really thinking about it that much, which is a shame. And then I saw today where, I guess, wonderful political circus that we live in, there's an effort now to push a 30% income tax, flat income tax rate for people. That's some shit show. I'm not even sure what that's based on. I mean, I could see it, right? I could see that if maybe just maybe, that was indoctrinated with, either universal basic healthcare and income. I could see if that worked for other assets being, like, it's amazing to me they can go, we're going to give you this flat rate of 30%. And it's just a proposal at this point. I don't think the current administration is going to allow it to go through. I don't think any administration would allow it to go through unless they've got big companies deep in their pockets, which, let's be honest, a lot of politicians, it doesn't matter the background, really do. And so, but the reason I bring that up is not for political discourse. No. I don't like doing that because I am very passionate about it, and I don't like to do that unless I know it's going to be a real debate with somebody, and I'm not going to be a talking head asshole about it. But it made me think about, like, where I'll be heading with my business. I mean, what if something like that were to take effect? How would that affect me? Well, it would wreck my business. It wouldn't be easy. That's for damn sure. Reminds me of that kid on Twitch. I don't know how many of you guys are online. I forget his name. I found out about him like probably a few months ago. I didn't think anything much about him, but he streams wearing an astronaut helmet. I don't know how old he is, but he sounds like he's 15 or so. He went off about math, and it was a clip that went viral about. He goes on to say, he was like, I know what the fuck 0 is. I know what 1 and 2 are, but you're literally teaching me about 0 and -3. 0 literally means nothing. -3 is less than nothing. So why the fuck would I care about that? Why are you telling me about these abstract phenomenons when what you should be teaching me is how best I can hide my income from tax people? That is some brutal fucking tea to run across. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Not that I completely disagree with him, but it's just the fact that, which then he also, I think, like, he's got hundreds of thousands of views on that clip now. So no doubt he's going to get a lot of followers. I don't know if he's a gamer. I don't know if he's just a talking head, just chatting guy. I don't know what it is, but he clearly, hit a tone with somebody, with a lot of people. And I certainly was like, maybe I give him a subscribe. Maybe I follow him. I'm not going to subscribe, but I'll follow him and see what he's all about. Just because that's interesting. You don't really hear anyone that'll speak out that adamantly, especially at that age range. I'm surmising. I don't know how old this kid actually is. I'm assuming it's a young man. I'm not totally sure on that. But the point is, he came out swinging on that. And it's an interesting angle, because a lot of times people anywhere older than 20, we automatically have this idea in our head that we want to dismiss a lot of what the younger generation talks about. I call bullshit on that. When I taught 6th grade art for a little bit, it was through a special projects class. I've talked about this before. I've learned a lot, and especially what they're going through, what they're seeing. It's interesting because when I was younger, I was far more oblivious to the things that were happening in life. Like, I distinctly remember being in 5th grade, I believe it was, 5th or 6th grade, and my teacher, Mr. Vance, wheeling in this big television with a VCR, and they plugged it in, and we watched the news of the Challenger explosion. And so it wasn't that I was ignorant of what was happening. I knew, that the military was involved in Beirut around 1986. I knew that there was still talk about like Vietnam vets, my father having been one of them in the news, and this was in the 80s. I remember a lot of different things like that happening. But it seems now, because of the proliferation of all of social media and so many people being able to take the stage, even like I'm doing right now, you can get your ideology out there, and if it hits enough people, it can go viral for the right or the wrong reasons. But it still gives you a platform to be able to speak your mind. Granted, this platform is still mitigated and controlled by larger corporations that if they wanted to could shut you down, no problem. But all of us are small peanuts in this big worldwide game. And that's a whole lot of hoopla to tell basically what I'm getting at, which is I am still blown away that you two can stop fighting. Stop. God. That this kid is able to say this sort of thing, and I know that there's a lot of people that will be dismissive about younger generations. Well, they're living it. You see, we're leaving behind a world that is continually shifting into something that we're trying. I don't know what the hell, and I blame myself just as much as I blame anyone else. Yes, there's plenty of us trying to do the right thing, trying to help people, trying to make the world a better place, but we've got limited aspects that we can run with on this. And then again, what does that mean to be a better world? Everyone's definition is going to be slightly different. And that manifests even when we're trying, like creators like myself, when we're trying to make artwork, when we're trying to make any sort of medium, we're constantly bashing against people's opinions. You see different things get either review wrecked or, just completely ignored or quote unquote canceled. I don't even really believe that cancel culture actually exists. I do believe that you might get your comeuppance for shit you did. Yeah, you deserve that, but I wouldn't call it cancel culture. Because that rarely stops anyone from speaking out, even if they were called out and were wrong. But these younger children, and I say children, but people even in their 20s and 30s, realize how bad many people older than them have left society, the world, economics, and they're trying their best. Some of them aren't, but the majority, I feel, are doing whatever they can to survive, whether that's ignoring the problem and just kind of living, for lack of a better term, in a fantasy world, which is nothing new. My generation did the same thing. Older ones did as well. Nostalgia is hell of a drug. And then you have others that are fighting the good fight, that are trying to go, well, what else can we do that changes this? How can we help people that don't have food at school, that maybe are societally underpinned? All of these different things. There was a comment made the other day on Twitter from an account that I follow. I don't really interact with them very often. But they went on to say, that life is bullshit. Things are terrible. How do we move forward from there? And I'm paraphrasing my own comment because migraine. I remember replying back something to the effect. You can see it if you look at my tweets and follow replies on my Twitter account. It's on there. But something along the line of that I still hold hope. That I know that things can seem insurmountable, that they can seem really bad. But I still hold hope. I really do. I know plenty of people in my life that are trying to do the right thing, that are trying to make a difference, and that's wonderful. I get a lot of hope out of that. I get a lot of good feelings that maybe things will change. It is hard to constantly have to fight, though. It is annoying that when push comes to shove, we still see homeless people. We still see tons of problems that have been endemic in what is supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And I can already hear somebody saying, well, if you don't like it, get out. Well, that says more about you than it does me, that you're willing to live in a place that celebrates squalor, even if it doesn't directly affect you right now. I'm not leaving. Generationally and historically, I can absolutely tell you that my lineage was here far before a lot of European settlers, so I'm not leaving where I have always been. So, but I don't like to pull that card very often. I have had people tell me that, and I'm like, no, I got a good at least 500 years that could be traced orally through tradition that nails my family down in this area. Now, how much of that is anecdotal? Probably a good chunk of it. But the point is, that's not even that important. Somebody could come here as an immigrant. Somebody could come here as any which way they could come. And if they foster a good sense towards society and they're doing the right things to try and help growth and just be a good person, time here spent doesn't really matter. That's why I'm only bringing it up in that circumstance, because I always find that a weird thing for people to say. There have been people that have come here from China, from other places, and they've done good. You know, that they're first generation, and I'm never going to be the kind of person that's like, fucking go back to your place. Go back to where you came from. That's fucked. I've been told that. I don't know if I've told this story or not before. When I was still doing Civil War reenactment, I was in Shiloh, Tennessee. Oh, never been there before. And evidently I was something of an enigma, and I'll tell you why. Because I get there, and it's for a Civil War reenactment. Now, it's also Shiloh, Tennessee. So this was a reenactment of the Battle of Shiloh. And I remember we were marching at one point in time. I always portrayed the North. I surprisingly had of the people that I knew that died and fought in the Civil War, 2 members of my family, way back, of course, were Southern. We're in Southern units. And then I think I had 4 or 5 that were on the side of the North, and then others that just didn't give a fuck. They were out in California. They just didn't give a shit. They were not a part of it. So anyway, I always reenacted as a Northern troop. I was part of the 2nd Colorado. And we would regalvanize as different units depending on where we went. We'd be like, okay, you're this unit from whatever took place and took part in the Battle of Shiloh. And it was a good time. For the most part, I had nothing but positive experiences, for the most part, with it. Like any reenactment group, there can always be drama and all this other bullshit. But from a historical context of being able to replicate things and do things and learn more about that, I got an even wider appreciation of it, as I have with any reenactment group I've ever belonged to. When we we're marching, and I remember a whole column of us was marching toward the field, and they had, like, I could not shit you on this. It was like we were attending a mud truck event. There were just big raised up pickup trucks all alongside the road, and all these guys with, like, they all had the rebel flags on their heads, but they're just like, yeah, you go kick them, and just yelling, like, I thought they were like helping us out or just being positive toward us. I don't know, because you don't want to shit anyone. But one particularly engaging fellow decided to yell, go to hell, you N-word lovers. And that was not to be unexpected, but it was it definitely set the mood for the rest of the event. I was like, oh shit. Oh man, I need to lay out tonight and get a fade. Fuck. It was really fucking scary. And I was never so glad that I was just in the center. And I mean, like everyone else, almost everyone in my group were blue collar kind of workers and stuff. So they all had darker skin, and I wasn't as dark at that point. I was wearing a large fucking hat and everything. So I was like, and my beard had grown out really big by that point in time. So I was really grateful that I just looked sort of like a sun-kissed construction worker. And man, I'm not gonna lie. So we go and do the event, and for the most part, everything goes off without a hitch. It's pretty fun. But talking to some of the reenactors from Shiloh on the downtime was really interesting. I got blamed for a lot of things when they found out how I voted, what I thought about. So I was very open about it. I'm like, well, we're all in a hobby we enjoy. I forget that you can be part of a hobby, but that does not mean you are necessarily kin in that hobby with anyone else. Like that just means they still have their opinions and you have yours. So I think it was the 2nd or 3rd day it was out there. 2nd day. Of course, it's the Battle of Shiloh, right? It's a celebration of it. So there's all kinds of people with like funnel cakes and chili dogs and all this, historically accurate food out there selling in near the vendor tents. And I remember I was waiting in line. I was really hungry, and there was some reason that I was just like not feeling too good. The sun was getting to me. You had to just drink gallons of water because your uniform is, you've got a cotton cotton tunic underneath, and then you've got like your wool you're wearing on. Like you have to be in full uniform because that's how they marched. And I add that to my own natural insulation that I carry anyway. It's a lot of fucking weight. But at that point, I was pretty used to it. I'd been in doing this reenactment for a while, so it wasn't terrible, but it was still blazing hot standing anywhere in wool. The weird part is you wear the wool long enough, you do start to cool down because you're starting to sweat, and as the wind would pass through you, what little wind there was out there, you did kind of cool down. It was a weird effect. Nothing I'd want to live again, but yeah, it was interesting. So nonetheless, I'm standing in line. I remember sitting in line, and I was just waiting because you had to place your order. So I went up to the truck. They didn't say anything to me. These people didn't say anything at all. They were just operating these little food trucks and campers they were cooking out of. And they said, "What do you want?" I was like, "Could I have 2 chili dogs, but just put them on one plate, please, and then just kind of spread the chili over there?" "Oh yeah, no problem, no problem." "Cheese, yeah. Onions, yeah, absolutely." Whole gamut. I was so looking forward to it. What was really nice was, I guess because that area isn't the highest on the economic platter, food wasn't that expensive. And so I think I got like 2 chili dogs, and I had water on me, and I was like, man, I really shouldn't get a soda, but man, I kind of was just dreading that whole like not having caffeine for a few days thing. So I asked for a soda. It was fine. They said, "Well, we don't really have any ice. It's too hot." I'm like, "I don't care. It's fine. Just if it's kind of cold, it's fine." I'm sitting there, and there's a long line of other people that have ordered in front of me, so they're just taking orders and cooking up stuff as fast as they can. Over to the side, I see an older gentleman and a young little boy. The boy's just looking at me. He's looking and looking and looking. I'm getting a little self-conscious. I'm like, fuck. Because never mind the fact that I don't even know how this worked out. I'm still in my Union blues. Everyone around me is clearly in Confederate grays or in other stuff. So I'm standing out. Like I had left my unit. I decided to go and shop on my own. Weird feeling. Extra weird feeling because I'm like Mr. Brown Man standing there. I was like, oh shit, I stand out. But nobody was weird to me. Nobody said anything. And I still had my Enfield on me, and I was decked out. So I think there was a little bit of leeway given to me, like, well, he's a reenactor and we don't really fucking know who he is or anything else like that, which is fine. But this little boy kept looking, and then there's an old man standing next to him. He's kind of looking at me with like this weird scowl. I was like, I've been through this scenario enough times that I'm like, somebody is going to say something. Somebody's coming up to talk to me. I know it. God, just don't let this be bad. Because I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where the fuck the rest of my unit is. Like, they're all wandering around or some shit. Like, they were doing other stuff, but I was by myself waiting on 2 chili dogs like an asshole. So they started walking over toward me. And, like, if I was sweating, I started sweating even more. I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. Fuck. And so they're walking over and they're walking over. I look over and I make quick eye contact with the boy and look over at the old man. He's got this look on his face, and he walks over, and thank God this happened, but he's like, "Son, I got kind of a weird question for you." He's, I don't mean to offend you or nothing, but my grandson here has been staring at you, and you first of all, you got a wonderful uniform on. Hell, what exactly are you? What? You're not white, but you're not black. Are you a mulatto? That was at the exact same time a relief as much as I was like, what the fuck? Took me a second. I was like, did you just call me ice cream? Like, I don't know why. I thought he called me a gelato for some reason. And I was like, oh, no. But I said it almost too pertinent. Like, I was just like, no, of course I'm not that. Like, no, it was just like, no, I'm Hispanic. But my heritage is Native American. And that launched off a whole thing. The whole thing. I learned about his dogs, how one of them might be part wolf, how his mom was more than likely a Cherokee princess. Was I an Apache? Was I this sort of thing? And I was like, no, I'm Central American from my lineage, Purepeca, Indian, or Tarascan is the other one that they go by. And I explained all this stuff. He was fascinated. His son was also asking me all kinds of questions like, do you have to grow your hair out long? I was like, no, this is a personal preference. This isn't anything cultural. I didn't have all my earrings in or anything because I was a reenactment, all this other stuff. And they just asked me a bunch of questions. Then they started asking questions about the Civil War and some things like that. Not one rude or mean, accusatory or derisive comment was made. It was all fairly educational. It was all fairly forward and very nice. I didn't stop sweating the whole time. Not, anyway, I guarantee you that wasn't because of the fucking Shiloh heat. It was just, I was just sweating. I'm like, and he's just like, I just can't get over it. He's like, so, man, that's what you guys look like. I was like, I imagine this is what it's like to be like a fucking, like, I don't know, like a silverback gorilla or some shit at the zoo, and nobody believed you were real. Or you get that one asshole that didn't believe in pandas, and they go, "Holy shit, it's a panda!" And I think that's what the panda's like. No shit, Yeah, what? You haven't even seen Kung Fu Panda? Like just weird stuff like that. And it blows my mind how often people don't realize this stuff. Like I can't tell you how many times I've run across people, two or three times that I can distinctly remember where I've run across people that didn't believe that the Titanic was a real story. They thought it was simply a movie, or that it was like, well, that wasn't real, it's just an urban legend or something. And then they find out that it was real. When that's shocking to me. But at the same time, I understand that depending on your education system, where you're from and what you talk about at the dinner table, somebody like me ain't necessarily going to come up, because that would be like, I don't necessarily talk about Eskimo, Inuit people either. I don't know anything really about their cultures or who they are or anything. I've only ever met one Inuit person in my life, and that was in passing. I can't claim that I know anything about that stuff, but I am aware of them, and I love the art and the styles and things that have come from that. But it is a strange thing to be put into a place where, somebody had come up and said they just didn't know what I was. So naturally, it evolves over into something they may have seen, which for those of you that are not familiar what the term mulatto means, and again, I might be speaking out of my own recourse here, but it's half black and half white. And it's a term that I'd always understood, and I could be wrong on this, to be very negative. I don't believe that is used in any conversational concept anywhere today normally. It was such a weird word to hear. I'd only known about it because when I was living in Texas, they used to call a lot of the black kids that had one white parent. They'd call them muleys. It was the weirdest, I even knew then, I was like, that ain't right. Like, it's just strange. And offensive as shit, really. Completely. But bringing that around full circle to what I was talking about in the beginning, a limitation of what we know, how ideas are presented, creates a unique circumstance for knowledge, even ill-informed knowledge, to grow within. And as an artist, I think to myself, like, what can I do? There have been times when I thought to myself, like, maybe entertainment truly is the way to present ideas in a more functional way. But the truth is that if it's not encompassing enough to be wide enough and accepting enough for a wider margin of the audience to want to pay, to see, to buy, to pick up, to read, it may not find an audience and may not have as large of an impact. But I do feel that even in our smallest zones, like the comic I'm working on right now, World of Ardor, revolves around two young women that have native roots. It's not brought up a lot because the only one that in their family that is really showing any part of the Hispanic aspect with some native roots in it on occasion is their grandmother. How much it plays into the story, well, I can't talk to that point right now, but there are moments in there where it's based on a lot of people I know today that were raised in elements where they couldn't learn to speak Spanish or their native home language, their native cultural languages, because at some point in time, celebrating your culture was not celebrated by your employers. It made other people feel uncomfortable. And there was a certain stigma and a level you had to climb to be deemed, acceptable within a working area, within any kind of cultural or social group that you wanted to climb within. And I think that a lot of younger kids today are throwing a lot of that out the window, and they're trying to be much more encompassing. And I think that real change can come if we're willing to understand what common grounds we have between us and other generations, either older or younger than us. And know that, no, we're not going to have 100% common ground. We shouldn't. We're raised with different concepts. Hell, even me, I feel like an outlier in a lot of ways. I was an 80s kid, but I was a military brat. That is a completely different thing. I was never a latchkey kid. My mom stayed home. My dad worked. So I didn't know what it was like to have a key wrapped around on my chain, on my necklace, and I just didn't have that. Now, there were some kids in the military that both parents were military, so, they were sort of a latchkey kid, but you were on a fucking base in most cases. That's the safest place in the world to be, for the most part, pending nuclear attack. And so it was very different. And so even when I lived in Texas, nobody understood what that was like. And I was completely thrown off by the weird way that society functioned down there in that small town of Kennedy. It was just strange. But anyway, those are just some thoughts that were going through my head. And it's really weird. Most of that shit went through my head earlier. When I finally did get through a little bit of meditation, when I took some pain meds and stuff and managed to keep that down, I was like, I've got to get some meditation in. And I did for about an hour and a half. I sure as fuck wasn't moving. I just sat there, and when you meditate, if you've never done this, it's really enjoyable if you really let yourself go with it. My mind kind of floated back to a lot of when I was younger and thinking about, the problems happening today and where I was then. And, every generation, every year, every time has its big problems. And we think through those times. And it's crazy because I remember how immediate and scary so many things seemed back then, but we're still here. The majority of us are, including a whole bunch of new people. And I question a lot of what I create and what I make, thinking, is this helping anyone? Is this doing any good? Which is a lot of the reason why I do make my art, why I create a lot of the stuff I do. I want to be able to leave something behind that outlasts me, that I'm proud of, that I can look at in 5-10 years or longer and go, man, I did okay. It may not be the best thing, it may not be the most popular thing, but that's okay. But I did something that for my own heart and health was a really good thing. So, that's always something in the back of my mind, and definitely there for me right now. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this video out because I'm at 30 minutes. I didn't even think I was going to talk that long. And I am going to get to work on a whole bunch of shit that I am behind on now. Fuck. That's all I can think right now. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. I had a few other people ask where my other social media is, so I'll do it this time. I am on every literal social media you can find me on. I am on TikTok. That's the other big one. I've slowed down a little bit while I've been trying to get this whole series to stay going on. I've slowed down on TikTok a little bit. I've also been on Twitter forever, but that I get literally no engagement on. Even I've posted all kinds of times during the day. So, but nonetheless, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I have 2 accounts on Instagram, The Artist and Rogue, and then the other one's 80s Days Gone By, which is kind of a celebration project of my younger days, and hopefully a book that will be coming out in the next year or so, talking about my younger days and what pop culture media was like, and then showcasing a lot of my collection in it. Kind of like a little love letter back to the stuff that helped get me through a lot of really stressful times and points in my life. And then, what else aside from that? And then you can always check out my main website, which is theartistandrogue.com. That's got a blog on it. It's got 3 more entries left for 2022 that are still yet to be published. And then there's another blog post coming for January this month, kind of talking about this very effort and some other stuff and where I am professionally and what's going on. On the show front, because I've had a few people ask me about that, I am doing a lot less shows. I am going to attend a show, I believe, February 11th. It's a toy show, not as a guest or anything. I'm just going to it. I believe that's going to be the first show I'm going to attend. There may be another one in March. And then if everything clears out right and I get into NakaCon as I have in years prior, I shall be there, and that is at the end of May, I believe. But then after that, there's one or two other shows I might be attending, but otherwise, I'm going to keep it really low this year. Most of it has been because this takes a lot of time. Every time you see this is about 3 to 4 hours of effort of editing, uploading, posting, sharing, and trying to get this going. And then I have freelance clients, and then this first volume one that I'm really trying to get finished and out there and make it right. And that's been the biggest thing I've told myself is, yeah, quantity is great, but quality really has to be where I have to focus on that. And because I've seen where quantity can overwhelm and literally wipe out creators. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep it legitimate, and I want to keep it authentic to who I am and understand when I have to take a break. Like anybody, you don't have to be a creator. You could be any kind of person. And you should know that you deserve to have time to live your life and get things done as best you can. We can't make up for lost time, but we can live our lives a lot better. Someday I'm not going to stutter so much so that my quotes are much better. Y'all have a good night. I'll catch you in the next entry.